Deep underground in an undisclosed location, this is Tread Comics presents the Fleischer Studio Superman animated film series from the 1940s. The Fleischer Superman cartoons are a series of 17 animated short films released in Technicolor by Paramount Pictures and based upon the comic book character Superman, making them his first animated appearance. They were originally produced by Fleischer Studios, who completed their initial short and 8 further cartoons in 1941 and 1942. Production was assumed in May of 1942 by Famous Studios, a successor company to Fleischer, who produced 8 more cartoons in 1942 and 1943. Superman was the final animated series initiated by Fleischer Studios before Famous Studios officially took over production. Although all entries are now in the public domain, ancillary rights such as merchandising contract rights as well as the original 35mm master elements are owned today by Warner Brother Entertainment. Warner Brother Entertainment has owned Superman publisher DC Comics since their purchase in 1967. Only the first 9 cartoons were produced by Fleischer Studios. Nonetheless, all 17 episodes are collectively known as the Fleischer Superman cartoons. In 1942, Fleischer Studios was dissolved and reorganized as Famous Studios, which produced the final 8 shorts. These cartoons are seen as some of the finest quality animated cartoons produced during the golden age of American animation. In 1994, the first entry in the series was voted number 33 on a list of the 50 greatest cartoons of all time by members of the animation field. By mid-1941, brothers Max and Dave Fleischer were running their own animation studio in Miami, Florida, and had recently finished their first animated feature film, Gulliver's Travels. The Fleischers were also well into production on their second, Mr. Bug Goes to Town. Not wanting to risk become overworked, the Fleischers were strongly opposed to the idea of committing themselves to another major project when they were approached by their studio's distributor and majority owner since May of 1941, Paramount Pictures. Paramount was interested in financially exploiting the phenomenal popularity of the then-new Superman comic books by producing a series of theatrical cartoons based upon the character. The Fleischers, looking for a way to reject the project without appearing uncooperative, agreed to do the series, but only at a per-episode budget number so exorbitantly high that Paramount would have to reject them instead. They told Paramount that producing such a conceptually and technically complex series of cartoons would cost about $100,000 per short. This was about 4 times the typical budget of a 6-minute episode of the Fleischers' popular Popeye the Sailor cartoon of that period. To Fleischer's stock, instead of withdrawing its request, Paramount entered into negotiations with them and got the per-episode budget lowered to $50,000. Now the Fleischers were committed to a project they never wanted to do with more financial and marketing support than they had ever had received for the projects they had done thus far. The first cartoon in the series, simply titled Superman, also known as The Mad Scientist, was released on September 26, 1941, and was nominated for the 1941 Academy Award for Best Short Subject Cartoons. It lost to Lend a Paw, a Pluto cartoon from Walt Disney Productions and RKO Pictures. The voice of Superman for the series was initially provided by Bud Kohler, who was also performing the lead character's voice during the Adventures of Superman radio series. Joan Alexander was the voice of Lois Lane, a role she also portrayed on the radio alongside Kohler. Music for the series was composed by Sammy Timberg, the Fleischer's longtime musical collaborator. Roboscoping, the process of tracing animation drawings from live-action footage, was used minimally to lend realism to the character's body movements. Many of Superman's actions, however, could not be roboscoped, such as flying, lifting very large objects, etc. In these cases, the Fleischer's lead animators, many of whom lacked training in figure drawing, animated roughly and depended upon their assignments, many of whom were inexperienced animators but established draftsmen, to keep Superman on model during his action sequences. The Fleischer cartoons were also responsible for giving Superman perhaps his most powerful superpower, flight. When the Fleischers started work on the series, Superman in comic books could only leap from place to place, hence the phrase, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. After seeing the leaping animation fully, the Fleischers deemed it looked silly, and asked permission from Action Comics, later known as DC Comics, to have him fly instead. The publishers agreed, and Superman was formally given the powers of flight thereafter. Previously, he was only shown flying in the comics due to an artistic and editorial error in Superman issue 10. By the end of 1941, the brothers were no longer able to cooperate with one another, and the studio's co-founder, Dave Fleischer, had left Florida for California, where he would eventually become the new studio head of Columbia Pictures' Screen Gem Studios. After the Fleischers were removed from the company, Paramount renamed the organization Famous Studios and replaced all people in charge of production. The sleek look of the series continued, but there is a noticeable change in the storyline of the later shorts of the series after Famous replaced Fleischer as producer. The first 9 cartoons had more of a science fiction aspect to them, as they involved the Man of Steel fighting robots, giant dinosaurs, meteors from outer space, and other perils. The 8 later cartoons in the series, which were all Famous Studio productions, dealt more with World War II propaganda stories, such as The 11th Hour, which finds Superman going to Japan to commit acts of sabotage in order to reduce the morale of the enemy. Meanwhile, an angered Adolf Hitler had a cameo role at the end of Jungle Drums after Superman foiled another Nazi plot. The first 7 cartoons originated the classic opening line, which was later adopted by the Superman radio series and in the live-action television series a decade later. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. However, for the final 2 Fleischer-produced cartoons of the first of the 8 Famous Studio-produced cartoons, the opening line was changed to faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to soar higher than any plane. For the remaining Fleischer Famous Studio-produced cartoons, the opening line was changed yet again to faster than a streak of lightning, more powerful than a pounding surf, mightier than a roaring hurricane. For international prints of Superman cartoons starting with the 11th Hour, the opening line is faster than a streak of lightning, more powerful than a pounding surf, mightier than a roaring hurricane. This series also featured a slight variation of the now classic exclamation, "Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!" Famous Studios ended the series after a total of 17 shorts had been produced, replacing it with a series of shorts based upon Marge's Little Lulu. The high cost of the series kept it from continuing in the face of budgetary restrictions that were imposed after removing the Fleischers from the studios. The first cartoon had a budget of $50,000, and the other 16s each had a budget of $30,000, bringing the total cost of the series to $530,000, which is the now equivalent of almost $9 million. In addition, Paramount cited waning interest in the Superman shorts among theater goers, another justification for the series cancellation. The rights to all 17 cartoons eventually reverted to National Comics, who licensed TV syndicating rights to Flamingo Films. All eventually fell into the public domain due to National Comics failing to renew their copyright. Thus, they have been widely distributed on VHS, Laserdisc, and DVD. Nonetheless, Warner Brothers, via parent Warner Media's ownership of DC Comics, now owns the original film elements to the cartoons. In 1985, DC Comics named Fleischer Studios one of its honorees in the company's 50th anniversary publication, 50 Who Made DC Great, for its work on the Superman cartoons. Writer and artist Frank Miller cited the influence of Max and Dave Fleischer, including among them a list of prominent Golden Age comic creators whose work he acknowledged at the end of his 1986 comic series, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. The series strongly influenced the creation of the acclaimed animated television series, Batman the Animated Series, as well as the similar-looking Superman the Animated Series. Comic book artist Alex Ross has also listed the shorts amongst inspiration for his take upon the Superman look. And now, Trent Comics is proud to present the Superman Fleischer Studios Terror on the Midway. Terror on the Midway is the 9th of 17 animated Technicolor short films based upon the DC comic character of Superman, originally created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. It is the final cartoon short by Fleischer Studios. The 9-minute short features Superman attempting to stop the chaos created when several circus animals escape their cages and restraints, including a giant gorilla. It was originally released on August 23rd of 1942 by Paramount Pictures. And without further ado, Trent Comics presents Terror on the Midway.
Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound, this amazing stranger from the planet Krypton, the Man of Steel, Superman. Possessing remarkable physical strength, Superman fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice, disguised as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter, Clark Kent.
You're just about to witness the most amazing sample of Technicolor art the world has ever seen.
Sorry, old fellow.
Fine, thanks.
Ace newspaper woman scares monkeys.
Ace newspaper woman reviews circus. What an assignment.
Yeah, too bad, Lois. Looks like a great night for a murder or fire or something.
Hurry, hurry, hurry. Just wind up with
That's your cue, Lois.
The show's about to start. Only a few minutes before the performance begins. So hurry, hurry, hurry.
Get going, Joe. Let's see what's cooking. This is a job for Superman. Lucky Lois. Always gets her story.
And luckily, she lives to write it.
Thanks to Superman.